All right, what's going on, fellas? We're breaking out the fancy camera again. Not sure if you guys could tell the difference, but we're giving it a go. Welcome back to our road to a 405 overhead press. I got on the internet this morning and saw a bunch of people that are stronger than me, and this upset me, so we're gonna fix that. You could say, I don't see a goddamn reason why I can't do that. People say, Sam, you're 5'10". That's probably gonna be a little bit difficult to keep up with those guys. You're 265 pounds. That makes me the king of the manlets. I am the champion of the manlets, which means I need to put up some numbers that are comparable to the big guys to champion my fellow manlets, because 5'10" is obviously the tallest of the manlets. So I will become the strongest of the manlets. All right, a little tip for you guys. I'm trying to get away from the channel being like educational in nature because that's no fun. And being an educator sounds boring and shitty. So I'd rather just kind of fuck around on the channel, have fun, and just document my process of getting stronger. And if there's stuff in there that's helpful, awesome. But that's not really the point of the videos. I think it's less fun to make, right? But that being said, a little tip for you guys. I think as you work on a lift and you trial and error and your intuition kind of becomes honed, because when you first start as a newbie lifter, your intuition is kind of worth jack shit because you don't have any data that is kind of like you calibrate your intuition based on real world experience. At first, it's very poorly calibrated, but you do things, you see what works, you do things, see what works. So your intuition becomes this really powerful tool that is based in experience. And if your intuition is screaming at you for something, there's a good chance there's a reason you should talk to your coach, if you're someone who's a coach, about what your intuition is yelling at you. If you're one of my clients and your intuition is screaming that we are doing something wrong, shoot me a message. I might disagree and we could talk through it, but don't just keep quiet about it, right? Your intuition calibrates with time and often should be listened to. But one of the things you can do is over time, you'll understand the essence of how to improve your bench press or how to improve your deadlift. And each one's kind of its own skill, but you'll learn like, okay, I need to get under a heavy weight, as heavy as I can with good technique. I need to build some volume. I need to do at least 2 working sets of abs. And then I need one movement where it's kind of hip centric, where like hip musculature is what fails first. And I need one exercise that's knee centric. And as long as those are progressive, what specifically they are doesn't really matter. And that's the cool part, is if you can understand the framework of what you need to do to get better, that means you can have a lot of fun. Like, I'm getting tired of this knee centric exercise. I'm gonna switch to a different knee dominant exercise instead to keep things fun and start getting some newbie gains on something else. And you can keep the ball rolling. It's a way to experiment and have fun with your training and swap things in based on how you're feeling without fucking up your progress, like someone who's always changing things all the time, kind of a paralysis by analysis type dude. So I feel really good that I've got a very good framework for like bench press and deadlift. I understand what needs to be done. So that gives me some nice leeway to swap things in and out from that framework to keep things really engaging and fun. I'm getting there on overhead press. I'm working on squat, right? And it's just about learning those things. Me yapping aside, 215. I remember for a while, I was doing more of these like train alongside me type videos where I would, give my tips or whatever I was thinking about between sets. And I kept getting these like hardo, untested, or like old head lifters in my comments be like, a lot of fucking talking, not a lot of training. How about you just train? And it's like, brother, I am strict pressing your bench. How about I do my thing and you do your thing? I was always cracking me up. I was like, I feel like it's working all right for me. I've got to take some rest anyway. Why not talk a little bit? I don't think it matters very much. So, pardon me, I'm gonna go get chalk. In the spirit of me embracing the yap and worrying a little bit less about what comments on the internet say, let me tell you guys about something I was thinking about the other day. I was talking to my friend Henry. Teddy, shut up, buddy. Shh. I was talking to my friend Henry the other day, and I was like talking about how, the whole lifting is more like gardening than it is like a machine. It's more about trying to prompt adaptive responses rather than like mechanical A input equals B output type deal, right? So because of that biological nature, it really comes in the form of a lot of pushes and pulls. We push and we pull the body weight. And that's what most good lifters have agreed is kind of the best way to gain or lose is these pushes and pulls. Or sometimes the pulls are just periods of maintenance, right? But there's still this idea of pushing more food, pulling back the food. With our accessories, we push the weight to the absolute upper end of what we can do with acceptable form, and then we pull back a little bit to regather to really high quality, regather some mind-muscle connection, and then we start pushing back up again. And one of these pushes and pulls that I think is interesting was something Dave Tate was saying on his Instagram, where the pendulum swingeth from low volume to high volume. And the people that are low volume people right now will probably be high volume people in a couple of years if they stick around. And that's actually beneficial. It almost acts like this really zoomed out periodization. And the good lifters that stick around will benefit from each time that pendulum swings, right? We go through like a little bit of a low volume swing right now. I'll tighten it up. I'll really make sure, go a little bit lower on the set count, make sure my proximity to failure is really tightened up. Then we go volume block. And I was telling Henry, he was like, his intuition was basically telling, he's an experienced lifter. His intuition was telling him like, man, I kind of want to do a few more sets across with a slightly lower, right? Not a low, we're not going, one set a week and we're not going 52 sets a week, right? But we have the option of doing a few less sets and going real close to failure, or a few more sets and going like, 2 to 3 reps in the tank, 1 to 3 reps in the tank, and doing a few more across sets. And his intuition was telling him that, hey, I keep watching these videos of bodybuilders that skew slightly more on that voluminous side, and like that just keeps sparking my interest. And there's probably a reason, right? So like my prep for the 880 deadlift, most of that prep I did more the greater number of across sets with a little bit more in the tank, and that worked really well. And then right now I'm training with the hope of deadlifting 900, and my intuition has just been a lower set count with closer to failure proximities, and that has worked really well. And it's probably because there's some novelty. It's the same reason that swinging pendulum works well, is you go volume, big volume all the time guy, and then you switch and you get some novelty gains from this slightly different approach of closer to fail, few less sets. And then you really get some adaptive resistance to that. We skew to the slightly more voluminous side, and then we get some kind of newbie gains again from this new methodology. So I don't think it's like I need to be a cross sets guy versus a top set back off guy versus a just one big set per exercise, 2 big set per exercise guy. I think I just alternate it based on what is giving me a more robust response. And by robust response, I mean what is making for smoother progression from week to week. All right, 2, 4, 5. That feels pretty good. All right, yap time is gonna be put on pause. Now, we're kind of done with the early warm-ups. Got to lock into thinking about tech, kind of creating a more powerful, stable bottom position, because that's the name of the game for getting a big strict press, is the more we can create this really tense, rigid environment to drive out of the bottom, the more we can express our maximal shoulder strength. Of course, we need to then build up our maximal shoulder strength, but if we can create that that imaginary incline bench out of flexing our glutes, flexing our abs, and flexing our upper back to create this stable environment, we're gonna be able to display top end strength a hell of a lot better. 275, 2 reps here. All right, last warm up here. 305 on the bar. I'm trying to make a little bit more conscious effort to flex through my abs. Like I said, kind of got 3 points of creating a lot of stability. Some people flex their quads really hard. I do not. That varies from person to person, but 3 kind of universal points creating stability for a strict press. We're talking glutes, abs, and upper back. Feel like the upper back is happening kind of automatically from the fact that I've brought up the strength of my upper back a bunch. Feels though the glutes are happening kind of automatically. So that means I'm gonna dump my focus and effort into creating a little bit more stability by manually flexing the abs. Just the old cue, imagine someone's gonna punch you in the stomach. Not great, not bad. All right, working weight on the bar, 335 pounds. about 152 keys, I think. Real kilogram wizard over here. I've got way less shitty kilo conversions because I have enough international clients. We're going doubles, kind of pseudo cluster style. The rest intervals, I have to go check my notebook, but I believe the rest interval is 1 minute and 30-second rest. Trying to go until I hit kind of just a limit last double. That's the prescription for the day. We're going beltless. We're gonna see if I regret that. Squeeze more. Cheesy. Hush. Nice. All right, with how these are feeling, this is the strongest my overhead has ever been, for sure. I was telling Max the other day, man, I underestimated this road to a 405 overhead press, which I'm honestly pretty happy about. I thought it would be the easiest of the 3 challenges, the 600 bench press, the 880 deadlift. I thought it'd be the easiest of the 3, and I should have known a little bit better because I'm a very pec and tricep dominant bencher, not that shoulder heavy. I've always just had enough shoulder strength to bench what my goal was. Never been like an excess of shoulder guy. I've kind of leaned my technique into a little bit more flair, a little bit more stretch in the pecs. So I should have known that the base for the 405 overhead press would take some building, and I'm honestly pretty happy about it because my favorite thing about these like challenges I've set for myself is the payoff at the end. The feeling of, oh man, I've spent the last year, the last 6 months training the shit out of this lift, learning about it, learning, training, learning, eating a bunch of meals. The feeling I get when I complete one of these is kind of a high point for me every year. And I was worried that if the 405, I set a low goal for myself, I wouldn't feel that good about it. I'm not gonna lie to myself and say, oh, I dug deep for that one. No, I didn't. Damn, it's definitely harder than I thought, which I'm honestly quite happy about. And we're getting close. I'm getting very excited. I can feel, I think, I told you guys I'm trying it at the end of this block. I think it's happening. I think it'll fall. Well, you can mix it up, right? Like, as long as there's a big vertical pull, you can get strong on these for a while, get up to like a little added weight on these, and be like, ooh, what if I did like 2 months of chins now? You know, could I do a plate? All right, I'm thinking this will be my last double. I could keep going. I think I could keep going out to like 6 on these rest intervals, but we are going to leave it at 4 to spare some low back fatigue for heavy squats tomorrow. And get straight into our Smith overhead presses. I'm strong. It's coming along. And I'm still in the strength phase of this block. So this session I'm doing right now is pre-fatigued. I always get a little boost at the end when I drop out my tertiary pressing day. So then primary presses are fresh. I always like, ooh, man, they're like, it's like dropping the fucking ankle weights off. Unleash my my real maximal strength, and I've still got that card to play. I'm feeling good. So hopefully we get this last double nice and smooth, get that bar path right, arcing up and back, powerful drive off the chest, and then move on to just some shoulder hypertrophy work, just trying to get big old boulder shoulders. Yeah. All right, fellas, we're almost done warming up on the Smith overhead press. One thing I love about this Smith machine is, boy, is it heavy. Don't have to put as many plates on there, which is honestly very nice. As much as I like the Smith machines with a counterbalance, because it really boosts the ego to be like, I do 3 plates on this, and this. Kirsten really...
Sounds bad for my behind the neck.
Kirsten hates this one because she's getting real close to 1 plate on her behind the neck Smith presses at the gym in town, and then she comes and does the workout here and gets absolutely humbled. I like it. I don't really care how much I'm Smith pressing. It's kind of interesting. I'm taking kind of feeder sets on the way up. All that means is I'm kind of sparing some fatigue. I'm just doing enough to be ready for the next weight. Some people like to take straight sets on the way up. So if you're working up to a top set with the goal of 10, they'll take 10s all the way up. And people are like, oh, that's stupid. You're just fatiguing yourself. Those aren't stimulative. I usually have my older clients or anybody who's a little bit prone to joint issues will take straight sets up, man. I understand the arguments why it's suboptimal from like a physiology perspective, but then you have to weigh that against like real world experience of working with real people. And most of my clients, or like John Meadows, would always take like straight sets on the way up. And I'll take a little bit of pre-exhaustion that's unproductive in exchange for the exercise being pain-free all day, every day. I myself, I'm pretty healthy in the shoulders, so I'm taking feeder sets. Some people will just do like a single as their last warm-up. I don't like that. It leaves me feeling underwarm. And people say, oh, if you're underwarm, that means that single was actually not close enough to your work weight. I would rather make reasonable jumps and do a few more reps. So my rule of thumb is whatever my goal is for the top set, I will do half that many reps for my final warm-up. So if I'm working up to a top set of 10, I take like 10%-ish jumps. My final warm-up will be 90% of that goal weight for 5 reps. So that's exactly what I'm about to do is 90%-ish of the top weight for 5 reps. That was real smooth, huh? All right, 10 would be a nice improvement from last week. I think I can do 11. We'll see how it goes. I was just telling Kirsten, it's kind of funny. I've always been a pen and paper elitist when it comes to log booking, like the physical notebook, boost tests, keep you off your phone. But it's so funny how many of my clients, like, who are great lifters, like I'm talking like actually like elite lifters, are like, yeah, I would never do that. That sucks. I use a notes app in my phone. Or Jasper, who's a pro strongman, has his little Fit Notes app that logs his all-time PRs for things. So that way he just PR chases all of his accessories, maybe to, you know, a technique detriment every now and then, but it keeps him really motivated for overloading his accessories. And we've recently switched Kirsty over to the app because I always had her pen and paper it. And man, for such a small thing, it's been a revolution. Kirsten has been like coming away from every session hyper motivated, be like, I actually hit 13 PRs today. I hit 50 PRs on every different movement today. All right, 11 reps.
Got it. Push. Drive.
I just clenched my teeth so hard on that one. My jaw, which is a new one for me. Like, I don't lift with a mouth guard because when I'm straining, it's never been a problem. I don't know why I just randomly spurred out and decided to flex my jaw as hard as physically fucking possible. It's funny. Kirsty, well, if you can hear her, she's doing dead stop. Okay, yeah, fuck. All right, attempt 2. It's funny, right? Kirsten is a very good coach, has multiple lifters, deadlifting 600, like has been doing this for a long time. But the selection of gyms that we've trained at has been very odd. So she hasn't like seen a bunch of like the standard kind of gym bro nonsense. So the other day she saw someone doing like, you know, the old school throw a bar in the corner and do the worst T-bar rows you've ever seen with the V handle. We've all seen it. And she was like, I've never seen that before. And I was like, little do you know, that's kind of fallen out of favor in like the grand scheme of gym bro culture recently. But that is like the most commonly fucked up exercise alongside like leg press at like commercial gyms is some dude just throwing way too many plates on there, doing like tiny little quarter reps on T-bars. I was curious what you guys think is like, in your opinion, obviously, you know, the partial leg presses are a big one, though that's kind of fallen out of favor. The shitty T-bars kind of fallen out of favor. What do you guys reckon is like the most bro fudged tech on an exercise? I'm just kind of curious.
Tell me where the freaks at. We get that bass thumping, people jumping all over the world. We got them speakers bumping. Let me trumpet for the woman with curves. Got that freak flow, freak show. Welcome to the circus. Let the leaders lead.
All right. Chris, would you turn on the lights?
Yeah.
All right. Finally, 8 p.m. That's wraps on the day. I just finished the little Q&A. We do a little training discussion every week on the Patreon. Not saying you should join, but it's $5. Hopefully going to move to 2 videos a week on the Patreon once Kirsten is kind of full-time working around here. Maybe do some other stuff, maybe do some programs. But for the time being, all I can promise is that we do 1 Q&A kind of training discussion every week. Whatever, who cares? This isn't supposed to be a plug for my shitty Patreon. But we're all wrapped up. I've been playing Octopath Traveler. I'm playing the first one first because I know Octopath Traveler 0 came out. And I hear that Octopath Traveler 2 is just a much better version of 1. I'm a big RPG guy, but where the characters actually... It's frustrating playing the first one because the characters don't interact with each other. But I've been, as funny as it sounds, I've been trying to make a lot time because I work 7 days a week and I have worked 7 days a week for the last 7 years. I've been trying to slot out some time to make sure I play some kind of game at some point just to bring the kind of adrenaline down a little bit. It's weird. It makes like a markable difference in my recovery. Not that playing video games makes you recover magically, but just doing something that you know brings you down a little bit because I am a high-strung fella. Also, ignore my near 20-year-old monitor that makes all of the parts that are supposed to be black red. You pretend you can't see that. But let me know if any of you guys are big fellow RPG guys, if you got any game recommendations. Because now I'm trying to allot at least like just a little 20-30 minute slot at the end of each day to wind down. I'll be cranking through games. I get most of my game recommendations from Paris and Max, so I'm hoping to broaden my horizons a little bit. Let me know what you think I should play.